and they know that there's a lot of people who want to be where they are right now.
I think Jungle either did a...
Yeah.
What happened?
You call?
Yes, he called.
He called.
And he may be limping to trap.
Of course he is. This is
Duhmael may have him.
I raise.
Wonder if he might just jam.
40 more.
Nope.
40 more from seat 7.
I think Jungle might just flat, as weird as this is, with the position on the button. How do you think he's going to play it?
I think he might just flat with
A
position
jungle
on
flat.
the button.
It's a jungle style call. To call. Yep, that's what he does.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a great final table. I mean, think about it right now. It's an 8-handed final table, Phil Luck. We really know 6 of the participants. Sam Trickett, Jonathan Duhmael, Jungleman, Tobias Renkemeyer, Talal Shakerchi, and Dan Shack.
Yep.
Then
we have
one.
Not much action on that flop there. Let's talk about pre-flop a little bit. What do you think about Jungleman limping with a very nice hand on the button here?
It is maybe surprising, but if we look at the stack sizes, it's not shocking to me at all. So Duhmael with the 30-some-odd blinds, it's exactly almost the wrong stack. Like maybe we have to call off with King Jack of Hearts if we raise and get shoved on, especially when we've got this much of a chip lead. But it sucks. And I could see how Jungle wants to use all of his poker skills. He's on the button, and maybe limping is just an easier thing. So instead of getting shoved on by all the weak aces, he can check call. Or sorry, complete call, I should say.
Yeah, that's what he does. This all seems fine to me, everything pre-flop. Now we get to the flop. Is this a good flop for Duhmael to effectively give up on, right? Because we're not check calling this flop with king, queen high. I mean, Jungleman could have any 8, 10, or 4 in his range that are reasonable, right?
He has those things. He has a hand, like actually he has, where he's going to have back doors and some overcards sometimes, which just aren't folding. He's got straight draws that aren't going to fold. I think this is probably a great hand to check give up on right now as Duhmael.
It sucks when we're so short and we already put in 56K.
Yeah, but we still have enough of a stack to claw back.
I think I agree. I think we do have to check, and I think we do have to give up if Jungleman bets. But that doesn't happen. That feels a little bit stranger to me. The Jungleman doesn't bet here when the door opens. Like I said, Jungleman could absolutely have 8-9, 7-8 suited, 10-9, Jack-10, Queen-10, some 4s, like 4-5 suited probably in his range as well. You'd expect him to bet all of those. It would be very reasonable for Duhmael to expect that. With this stack depth, you probably wouldn't expect too many check shoves out of Duhmael to ruin your whole bluff plan. It feels like a bet is warranted here from Jungleman, doesn't it?
It really does. He's got so many chips. Like I love putting the chips to work when you've got a big chip lead, and this feels like such a great time to do it where the board seems to favor us. Duhmael seems to be showing a lot of give up here. Sure, he's like you said, he's going to check raise once in a while. That's okay. We don't have that much equity anyway.
Right. It's just back doors. It's not a big deal.
It's fine. Okay, we have overs too, but fine. I really like betting, and we may have to bet again a lot. We may have to bet twice. We're going to have a lot of good cards on the turn. We can bet any heart, any straightening card, of course, any king or any jack. And we can also, sometimes bet a non-helpful card if we want. We got all the chips. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm a little flummoxed by this check, but it happens, and I guess we're going to head to the turn with no action. If you want action, Nitrogen Sports is the place for you, buddy. I'm talking to you. Stan, sitting there on your couch thinking about Nitrogen Sports, use the link in our pinned tweet when you sign up, Stan, to get access to our exclusive Poker Guys events, including our monthly tournament. It's great. It's a Bitcoin-only poker site. Money in fast, money out fast.
Vandiari and Scott Seaver. That's going to be huge.
Yep.
And one player from yourself, Jennifer Tilley, Jason Mercier, Igor, and Tony G.
Yep. Now I think that when the 8 comes, it's harder to rep a hand. I think the ace-queen kind of hands are going to call. Do you know what I'm saying? Duhmael can have ace-jack, ace-queen. I think those are much easier to call now. So I don't know if but it's kind of like, do you know what I'm saying? Like Duhmael basically has a bluff catcher anyways, because ace. This is a value call. It's just like I have. It's just kind of king queen is kind of the same as ace jack, or
So
you know what I'm saying? It's all the kind of the same
Ace would
class.
have checked, gentleman at an ace, he would have checked back the turn, or would he have bet as well?
I'm just saying that you can't steal pots against a guy who knows how to thin call. He's checking for value.
Wow.
That 7 actually is kind of like lively-ish, but I don't think it's going to get through jungle. Could Jungle just say 290?
Yeah, 300 or 400?
It's
I
300.
have 260.
He could. If he thinks that's like,
Did he go all in? No.
he's thinking about it. If he didn't have booze running through his veins, he might get the answer that he could just win it by going all in. I love Jungle.
I'm all in.
Wow, he gets
All
everything.
in.
Can he call
Yes,
for
he
value?
can.
He knows he's got the same as ace high. Wow. This would be like such an epic call.
Oh, he really wants to, doesn't he?
Wow.
He really
Jungle
wants
has so
to.
like if the bluff goes wrong, he still has a ton of chips. And Duhmael knows this.
I think he is.
He has such
You know,
heart.
Duhmael plays the way you keep advising Jungle to play. He
Uh-oh.
knows
Let's see if
and
he
he
can get a
never
live tell. Let's see if
says.
he can get a live tell.
You have it, or you just go drinking? Fuck that
Oh,
game.
he's broken. Now he's smiling. What does that mean?
He did.
That means that he's happy and comfortable with his hand?
He wants to call. He really wants to call.
I think he's just comfortable with his whole life, and the points and everything he's got. But I think Antonio would see that as a weakness, that smile.
Wow, look at these. He's pipped him. I mean, if he calls.
I call.
He's called!
Wow.
He's brilliant! He's
Yeah.
beautiful!
He is beautiful, isn't he, Jesse May?
God, Jesse May, why? Why did they let him work?
He's beautiful. I mean, you know, he has a pizzazz to him. We can give
He
Jesse
does.
May credit for that.
He does.
It's just an interesting choice of a way to do commentary. But here we are, and Duhamel has made this call twice with King High. Now, this is back in 2012 or so things are a little different, and that may come into play because we're going to talk about distribution and stuff like that. But let's go back to the turn and talk about how that goes down. Do you think Duhamel should have taken a shot on the turn once he got the check back on the flop?
I would have expected him to do that. Yeah, like Jungleman's going to bet all pairs on the flop most of the time anyway. If he has a weird straight draw and somehow checked it back, like he's probably not calling the turn. He doesn't really have the odds to do it. That's kind of great. I think I would just bet to protect my equity, assume I'm ahead most of the time, and rock and roll.
Well, I guess it depends a lot on Jungleman's holistic limping strategy if it's there. Like
Yeah.
if he's limping all the time and Duhamel's recognized that, he might be afraid that Jungleman has a few too many ace highs, having played it this way pre-flop, feeling comfortable enough with the showdown value to check back the flop. And when the board pairs, Duhamel not having bet on the flop, Duhamel may think he can't get it through against ace high, and he's going to have to do a two-barrel thing that might not work, and he's not willing to do that. I think that's in defense of Duhamel checking. What do you think about that stuff?
I mean, that's not crazy. I don't know that there's that many ace highs really for Jungleman to have, though. Like, sure, he's going to have some. I think he's going to have some bad aces here, but he's going to have a lot of re-raises with the ace highs, I think, when they're heads up and he's got this big chip lead especially. Like, it's just such a natural, easy play, unless Duhamel just hasn't been raising at all against the limps.
Yeah. Either way, here we are, and Jungleman decides to go for it. And I got to tell you, this is what I said on the podcast. I'm not buying it when Jungleman bets 70K into 112 here with his King Jack. I don't buy that he really has value that often. I mean, you're telling me you checked back the flop with a pair. That's what you're telling me is Jungleman.
That's definitely what he's telling
And
you.
I don't really believe it that often. I know he's a balanced, good player, but like, how often is he really checking back at these stack depths on the flop with a pair?
I don't have an answer for you for sure, but I think it is curious at least. And as we see, Duhamel does call, seemingly agreeing with you here, right? Like thinking King Queen High is good enough to call with on this turn. Now, forget about the river.
Yeah.
On the turn, even, it feels like, wow. But if we think about that, Jungleman probably doesn't have that many ace highs because he's going to take different pre-flop actions with
And he's
them
going
a
to check
lot.
back with them a lot on the turn.
He's going to check back with them a lot on the turn, and he's going to bet a lot of his pairs on the flop. Well, when you put it all together, King Queen High does seem like it probably is good a lot. Of course, maybe you would expect a Jungleman to bluff a lot when he doesn't have anything on the flop. So that's the only counterbalance to it. But I agree. Also, when he bets 70.
Yeah. If he bets smaller, I could believe maybe that he has a 4 now that he checked back and he's protecting it now. But it doesn't feel like he's going to bet 70 with a 4. A 10, this is a very strange way to play a 10 when the middle card pairs.
I mean, maybe he's going to sometimes bet 70 with a 4 just to protect his equity against overcards and stuff like that. But mostly it doesn't feel that likely. I agree
right.
with
Which
you.
is why Duhamel calls, I think. He's not buying it either.
Yeah.
And we get to the river, and of course, Duhamel is still not buying it.
He doesn't buy anything.
But there's more to the story than that. All right. The river is the 7 of clubs, which is largely inconsequential for Jungleman's hand in Duhamel's eyes, most likely, right? You'd expect that if Jungleman had a straight draw of any kind that this affected, if he paired the 7, he's not going to go all in, right? That's just not a thing that you're going to do. And if he made the straight, well, it's strange that he didn't bet the flop then if he had a hand that could have made the straight with the 7. So those things don't probably factor too much into Duhamel's thought process. The big concern that we have, that we talked about on the podcast, is that Jungleman did play an ace high, a weak ace high like this, and decided he has to get a bigger ace high off of the hand on the river here. And now Duhamel's going to call, and Jungleman's going to be like, nice hand, I have ace 3.
Yeah.
You know, like that could happen here, right?
Absolutely, that could happen. And that would suck so much.
Which is why distribution is important. Like, I understand why Duhamel calls. The story is bad, right? Jungleman has a lot of bluffs here because the story is bad. But you need to use distribution in spots like this because not only does Duhamel not have as good of a hand as he could, like ace jack or ace queen or something like that, he also blocks a lot of the things that he wants Jungleman to have, like king jack or king 9 or like a weird queen 6 suited type hand.
Yeah.
He blocks all of these king queen highs that are the type of hands that he can actually beat that Jungleman might play like this. And I think that's really problematic.
That feels like a more important piece to the story, actually, than being afraid of Jungleman having ace 3 to me. Like, sure, he's going to have a few aces, but not that many. But boy, blocking the hands we want him to have as bluffs really sucks. And the 7, like you said, is often going to make Jungleman some kind of a hand, so where he wouldn't need to go all in. Now, is Jungleman super sick enough to sometimes take a straight draw that has a 7 in it and go all in on the river for value, trying to get heroed?
I wouldn't really think that.
I wouldn't think so, but even if he was, like, that would be a fold.
Right.
It isn't like we'd make a call there because we'd beat it. We don't have 2 9s. So that if he is, that gives us more reason to fold, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because that means there's a wider value range. But I don't know if he has that play in him or not, but it feels like it's just hard to come up with that many hands that we can beat here. I mean, when we block the kings and the queens.
Yeah, that's a real problem, the blocking, because we're looking to call against king jack, king 9, queen jack, which had a gut shot and didn't bet, I guess. Queen 9, same thing. Weird king X suited and queen X suited type hands. And we block all of those. Those are really the only types of hands we can beat because everything else that's coordinated is hitting the board at this point because of the way the board ran out.
When Duhamel calls with this hand, I mean, this is one of the worst hands he's ever going to be able to show up with here, where he checks the flop, checks the turn, calls the turn, and then is here with this hand. I guess in terms of worst hands, this may actually be the worst, maybe as king jack once in a while. I don't think he's calling king 9 on the river.
No.
I don't think. Maybe he is. Maybe it's all the same to him, but even king queen feels like just so low in his distribution.
It
especially
really
when it
does.
blocks things.
But as we said earlier, this is 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
Distribution may not have even been a factor at all. I understand categorically why Duhamel is thinking the way that he is. And if he didn't have the tool of distribution, I can understand why he would make this call. Because you're thinking, this guy's bluffing too much, I have to call. But if you use distribution and the blocker is involved in the hand, it seems like this is not the right hand for the job.
It feels like it isn't. So we had some pretty strong opinions about these world-class players, and I think they should have done some things differently. It was 9 years ago, in fairness to them. But do you agree with us, or do you think we're kind of off our rocker? Right? Do you think, like, the check on the flop? Of course it makes sense. Come on! Do you like the call on the river, especially by Duhamel? Let us know in the comments what you think about these plays, and do you think that we're maybe pushing it a little too far, or do you think it was just a different time and their play isn't what it would be now?
And if you want to hear more about how we came up with our thoughts on this hand, check out the podcast. It is the Breakdown Poker Podcast with the Poker Guys. That's us. Get it anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll see you there.